Northern Colorado. This is Kilo Delta Zero Tango Yankee Uniform. Joe here in Loveland. I'm net control for this evening's TechNet, sponsored by the Northern Colorado Amateur Radio Club. 6 o'clock on the nose. Anybody want to check in, please call now.
KB0YBN, Kilo Bravo Zero, Yankee Delta November. Eric, Pinewood Reservoir.
Good evening, Eric. Anyone else want to check in, please call.
AF7MO, Alpha Foxtrot 7, Mike Oscar, Roger in Windsor.
Donald, Longmont.
I got confused there. I'm sorry, my fault. I heard an AF0 and then there was a double, or maybe even a triple. AF0, come back.
AF7MO, Alpha Foxtrot 7, Mike Oscar, Roger, Windsor.
I got you that time, Roger. Sorry about that. I thought it was an O. Whoever was doubling with Roger, come back.
Whiskey, Zero, Delta, Papa, Charlie, Donald, Longmont.
Good evening, Donald. Anyone else want to check in, please call.
It was a trip with that one. Kilo Zero, Alpha Romeo Delta, Ann in Fort Collins.
You were the triple. Okay. Nice to hear you, Ann. Anyone else want to check in, please call.
Whiskey, Zero, Echo, India, W0LAI, Chad, and Stout.
Chad, I got you, but somebody doubled with you. Whoever doubled with Chad, come back.
WW8L, Tim, Fort Collins.
Hi, Tim, thanks. Anyone else?
AE0KO, Wellington.
Good evening, Brad. Anyone else? I'm sorry, that was double dead on. I could not get anybody. What do you guys want to come back?
KF0GQH, Kent in Wellington.
I got you that time, Kent. Whoever doubled with Kent, come back.
Kilo Foxtrot Zero, India Kilo Golf, Carter, Wellington.
Anyone else?
Whiskey 7, Papa Alpha Sierra, Paul in Fort Collins.
Good evening, Paul, but somebody almost doubled with you, but you were stronger than them. Whoever doubled with Paul, come back.
Zero GQI, Doc in Pierce.
Hi, Doc. Nice to hear you again. Anyone else?
AE0ME, Dick, Loveland.
Hey, Dick, got you down here. Thanks so much. Anyone else?
Good evening, Joe. This is Whiskey Zero, Delta Delta Zulu, W0DDZ, Dave and Greeley.
Good evening, Dave. Nice to hear you in here. Anyone else?
Hi. November 0, India Golf Delta, Mark in London.
Mark, I got you, but you doubled somebody there. Whoever doubled with Mark, come back.
Oh, it was me. K0AZA, Ron in Fort Collins.
Thought it was you, but I wasn't real sure. Thanks, Ron. Anyone else?
Yeah, this is Ken and Gria Evans, KC0, Papa Echo Mike.
Papa Echo Mike, I got you in. Anyone else?
W5VV, Whiskey 5, Victor Victor, Bill in Livermore.
Hi, Bill. Don't get much time to talk to you anymore. Thanks so much for checking in. Anyone else?
This is Greg in Fort Collins, November 0, Echo Mike Papa, with Debbie, Kilo 0, Delta Bravo Echo.
Well, I usually write it down before you actually say it, but I got you that time, Greg. And good evening, Debbie. Anyone else?
KF0 GSV out of Broomfield, Colorado. Kilo Foxtrot 0, Juliet Sierra Zulu.
Juliet Sierra Zulu. What's the name again?
This is Rich out of Broomfield.
Rich, I got you there. Nice signal from out of Broomfield. Thanks so much for checking in. Anyone else want to check in, please call.
Alpha Echo 0, Charlie Foxtrot, Ben, Fort Collins.
Oh, Ben, always nice to hear you. Thanks. Anyone else?
W1VAN.
Ivan, thanks so much for checking in. Anyone else?
KA2AUZ, Paul in Milliken.
Nice signal, Paul. You sound like you're next door. Thanks so much. Anyone else?
E0EXV, Brian Greeley.
I got you in, Brian. Thanks so much for checking in. Anyone else? Okay, well, if you don't want to check in, that's fine. If you got a question, comment, please be sure you get into this thing. As you all know what this is all about, because everybody here I kind of know. We're here to help anybody that wants to. There's no dumb questions. I want to reassure you of that. We've been at this stuff a long time, and we got a lot of knowledge right in here in this group. So there are no dumb questions. Even it's, well, how do I put that PL2659 or 69 or whatever it's called on? So does anybody have any questions or comments?
W1VAN.
Go right ahead, Arvin.
W0DMR group working on our latest project here, which is the 900 megahertz, 927 megahertz repeater.
Both of my radios are failing to program. Looking for possibly a Kenwood TK981 radio, but looking for somebody that has some 900 megahertz radio to help with testing.
Anybody out there that can help, Ivan? I sympathize with you. We were looking at something like that one other time, and we didn't have much luck either. I've got to talk to James sometime this week. I will definitely mention it to him if that'll help.
Beat my Motorola against the wall here and see if I can get it to work. It's been a little while since K1TJ had his 900 up and working, and that was the last time they were programmed. So tried all the tricks that I know to get this thing working again, but possibly just looking for a new radio. Possibly that 900 megahertz TK981. If anybody has one of those for sale, let me know. W1VA, and thanks.
WW80?
For Kenwood that I'm used to, what is that?
That's the 900 megahertz Kenwood radio, which also does the amateur portion.
Oh, okay. Now I'm following you. Now I know exactly what you mean. Well, Doug Sharp probably got something you could use. Or if I talk to James this week, which I should, I'll let him know that you might be looking for something, even something to make it work.
WW80?
Yep.
Yeah, Ivan, is that a GTX you're trying to program?
I was going to do it my XPR, and then the what the heck is this one? The XTL 1500. That's the P25, but it should do analog too.
Okay, I used to have a GTX, and I do still have the programming stuff for it. I had to use a DOS simulator to make it work, but I haven't used those models. But if you're struggling with getting the DOS part to work, give me a holler. I can probably help you with that.
All right. Well, yeah, these are Motorola programmable stuff here. The P25 and the XPR, which I have to hex edit both of those radios into amateur, but can be done.
Is that one of the radios that they're offering the software for nothing and not for $300 a year?
Which software are you talking about?
The software, the programming software.
Yeah, you have to get on their list there. It's a subscription programming.
Yeah, it's the one I thought it was. Oh, well. Well, okay, well, good enough. Anybody else got any comments or questions? Something to help Ivan out?
Yeah, 7WY in Cheyenne, Rodney.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't, sorry, I'm going through the network. So, KX7WY, Rodney up in Cheyenne, I got a TK981 original 900 megahertz FM. I'm in sort of the same boat that he is. I used to have it when they had the equipment up on top. I was going back and forth to Denver quite a bit, so it's in working order. I just got to put it in the truck and put an antenna on top of the truck. That's about it.
All right, well, keep it around. We're working on the repeater. Let's see. The frequency was, come on. The frequency is going to be 8125, 927, 8125, and the split is lower, of course.
Oh, yeah, because...
KX7Y, we only got half of that conversation. Come back.
Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, I had a static crash. I'm driving across town, and I was going through cellular on my network radio, so through Echo Link. So I'm going through a few things to get the repeater down where you guys are at. It's real scratchy getting to town, but yeah, I haven't used this radio for at least a couple of years, so if there's going to be some 900 megahertz stuff, you don't need to hex edit or mess around with that. Only with the 1200 megahertz radio that I have, you got to do that. So back to that.
Any other comments for Ivan? Okay, well, we hope to get you done. Tim might be able to help you there, so that's a good thing. Anybody else have any comments or questions for the net? Please call.
KB0YDN, comment.
YPN, go ahead.
This is KB0YDN. This goes out to people who own ICOM 7300. I thought I was in a relatively unusual position in that I wanted to switch my antenna automatically from the 7300 to other radios. And Greg asked me about this at one point to keep him up to date on this. What I ended up doing was using a coaxial relay driven from a different jack than you might suspect. Let me drop the repeater. I do not have an external tuner, so the Molex jack was not in use on my radio. Now, if you do have an external tuner, you still can vampire tap off that by using a pair of Molex connectors as a pass-through and take some power off. But it worked perfectly for my needs, and what the output from that jack provides is 12 volts when you turn the radio on, and turns it off after it's turned off all radio functionality. So if you power it on, your relay goes click, and then the radio boots, and then you're up and running. And when you turn it off again, the radio shuts down all the way and then goes click at the end, and you've switched back. The purpose I used it for was to switch in a raft of receivers to use the same antenna as the ICOM when the ICOM is not in use. Also, Mountain States Electronics had a suitable box for the relay that I chose, which was not really designed to be mounted in a box, but this one fit it pretty well and didn't take long to work on. And you can find out, it's pretty obvious which pins I use if you just do a Google for 7300 Molex pinout. You will get drawings. And the Molex is common on Amazon and eBay, and let me drop it. And the relay was from Radio Dan. It provides 60 dB isolation on 10 meters, and lower frequencies, even higher isolation. So I think I chose wisely. These are YDN, back to that.
Any other comments about this? Interesting topic. I guess I wasn't aware that, the 7300, I think everybody's got one but me. I know it's a very popular radio. That much I do know about it. That's about where it starts. Any other comments, questions, please call. Okay, I got a question, I guess.
Question about APR.
I've been fooling around a little bit with horizontal ham sticks in a dipole configuration. And has anybody had any luck tuning them?
W0LEI.
I was hoping you'd say something, Chad. Go ahead.
I had a mobile home that I worked out of for several years, and I had 240-meter dipoles back-to-back, or ham sticks back-to-back in a dipole configuration. And I had no problems. What the main thing I concentrated on was getting the end slide stick exactly the same on both dipoles.
Yeah, I've done that, and it's a fight. I mean, I open that sucker up so it's even looking at all kinds of different bands, and I see a little dip on one of them. I'm trying to. I got a 40-meter tuned up. That was not a problem, but I'm trying to tune it 80. It's actually a 75-meter, but I'm trying to get it tuned up so it's halfway decent, and I can't even get it close. How do you start on one of those things?
Well, the one I had set up was 440, so it works fine, or as good as one could hope for. 80, obviously, your bandwidth's tremendously narrow. I would tune one stick up, and then tune the other, and monitor the sliding end of it, and then set the other one up the same and see what happens.
Does it help to set it up vertically and then tune it and then just throw it horizontal, or does that probably doesn't work?
This is several years ago, but as I recall, I just set one up vertically and got it to the frequency I wanted, and monitored where my slide was, and then went horizontal with it, and played with the slide elements.
Yeah, if I can get it close, I mean, I can tune it from there. Do you notice that it's kind of opposite of what you should be doing? In other words, if it's out of the band on the low side, I've always heard you take it away, or is it reverse of that?
I just did it like I was normally tuning up a dipole, and one thing that I did note was the amount of rod inside the stick, and I cut the rods off hopefully exactly the same length, but I noticed that if you got down further in the coil area of the stick, that things started getting flaky.
Zero in my line. I think, well, I'll try setting it up vertically. I never thought about that. The 40 meter went pretty well when I got a handle on the thing, and I got a 20 out here. I'm going to try too, and I'm looking at maybe doing some endless stuff that Greg says I can do with this thing, so we're going to try that. But I'll try that vertically and then throw it down horizontally and then just tune the other one to it, and then just at least I can get in the ballpark and start working with it.
Yeah, and NYY came on there. You doubled with him. Maybe he's got some input into it. W0LEI back net.
I thoroughly apologize, Bart. Go ahead.
No problem. Howdy to the net. N0NYY, November 0, November Yankee Yankee Bart, temporarily in Loveland. On the hammerstick tuning, if you think about it, when that whip comes in a certain amount and the end of the whip inside the fiberglass gets inside of the wound section of wire on the fiberglass, now it acts like a slug tuning a coil, and your frequency goes down instead of going up as you shorten the whip, because you're adding that inductance into the center of the coil. So if you get to the point where the rod is going inside the tightly wound coil, you need to cut the rod shorter before you go any further, or you're going to end up going back and forth and fighting yourself and cussing a lot, and we don't like that. N0NYY back to that.
Yeah, you know, that's exactly what happened to me with the 40. I was able to get it, couldn't get any better than 2-to-1, which I'm not real crazy about, but what it is, I mean, you got to look at it as what it is. It's not my $500 680 out here, so you know, it's a $12 ham stick, so you're absolutely right. Any other comments, questions? Okay, moving right along. Does anybody else have anything you'd like to talk about? Anything, please call.
Delta Papa Charlie with a question about APRS.
Head with APRS, my friend.
Well, I've been having zero luck with it in that I've been watching a bunch of YouTube videos to set up my little FT3D and then go on a bike ride thinking that I would be tracked pretty well with transmissions about every 1 minute. And I get back home and I check out on the website, aprs.fi, and the first time I tried it, I got 0 transmissions, that hit the digipeater up above Horsetooth, and the second time I tried it, I got one. So I'm not sure what to ask, other than what is other people's experience with using APRS to track them, and do they have any hints? This is Whiskey Zero, Delta Papa Charlie, over.
N0 EMP, you are kind of an APRS expert.
Actually, I'm not, Joe. I don't actually use it that much for. I've never even turned it on my. I think I turned it on once on my Kenwood D710 to see if it worked, and I turned it back off. He's not apparently in here tonight, but Jim Dixon would be the person to go to.
Bart, have you had any experience with these things? I've had a little, and I might be able to help him, but I need somebody with a little bit more technical experience than I have.
You quit, Keith, Joe. Who were you asking?
You?
But I'm scared. I have a little APRS experience. I know that you can tell it how often you want it to do that, but I assume you did because you said every minute or so. But I'm not going to be much help either. When it's working, I kind of understand how it's working. When it's not working, I get kind of lost. I'm sorry, I can't be more helpful. Shame on me. 0NYY.
You know, I've got that radio, the R3, Yaesu, and I've never really programmed it for that. I usually have done it with the 400, and that's got a mobile signal. Is it possible, and I don't know if this is true or not, is it possible that the battery could have been down, or you could have been in an area where that digipeater didn't make contact with that radio?
Negative, I don't think so. I made sure the battery was charged and the automatic power off was turned off so it wouldn't turn off in the middle of my bike ride. And I was riding north of Meade on County Road 7, which is line of sight with the entire front range, all the way from Wyoming down to Pikes Peak. And so I could easily hit that repeater under normal transmission circumstances, but for some reason, and the YouTube videos that I've been watching, they say that if they get 20% of their transmissions to hit their digipeater, that's good. And they also say don't have the radio clipped on your belt, because if the antenna is too close to you, it won't work. So I guess I'm just going to have to come up with a better antenna to mount on my bicycle away from my body or something. I don't know. I was just looking for general experience if anybody has any. If they don't, that's okay. I'll go back to studying and trying and report back in later. This is Whiskey Zero, Delta Papa Charlie, back to net.
I've got a question for Greg and Bart and anyone else who wants to answer this. When you're using a handheld, the ground plane is you. When you're using a mobile like I was using, we were using the whole dog on top of the car. Could it be a ground plane issue with this thing?
EMP, let me make sure I got this. Yeah, a couple things. That might be a factor if the radio is in a holster and not in your hand. It's not going to be as well grounded, or there won't be as good of a ground plane. That could be an effect, but like you said, having the antenna near your body, you're going to absorb a lot of the transmit signal. The other thing I've noticed is I use APRS to monitor the solar charging system up at the cabin up at Rattlesnake, and I think I use 200 milliwatts from up there but I'm not hitting Horsetooth very much when I look at APRS FI. It will go right past Horsetooth, and I'll hit an eye gate in Greeley, or I'll hit an eye gate in south of Boulder, or I'll even hit an eye gate in Cheyenne, east of Cheyenne, before I'll hit Horsetooth. So I've told James I think there's a sensitivity problem at Horsetooth, and we just have to get up there and check it out. N0 EMP.
KX7WI with a comment.
With your comment, sir.
Yeah, with the handhelds and stuff, most of the other guys probably know more than I do about it, but I've been a ham for, quite a few years, tried a few things. And I went from here to Dayton with a mobile, and it was, pretty sparsely population from here to there off and on. But, with the handheld, I can't think of it's a pigtail or whatever, that you can put a little ring on your thing for an extra ground plane or something like that. And I know, and a lot of people other realize too, but he brings up a question like that, well, but I can do this or I can do that or whatever. Well, a lot of times depends on which way the antenna is pointed based on where you're at, stuff like that. But if I were him and he was using a portable like that, and the ground plane might be an issue of, body or the radio or whatever, and I'd put that little tagline on there. I can't think of the exact of it, but it'll probably help out a little bit with the ground plane. So you might as well check me back into net. I'm roaming around Cheyenne, going through the network radio on the Echolink app on my mobile radio for the, I'm just checking that.
Sorry you dropped out, but excellent advice. I think that I think we're on the right track with this thing. Like I said, Jim is more or less an expert on it. But like I said, I've never tried it with a handheld. But I do know this. There was a group of us that's probably on this thing that used to help James out on that MS-150, I think it was called, or something. And we digipeated all the way from Denver all the way in. In fact, we actually had a split. We used to go from one radio to the other, and they could see us everywhere we were at. So it's possible. Of course, that was years ago too. So our equipment could have got a little bit bad. Go ahead, White Ann.
The gentleman in Wyoming is thinking of as a tiger tail. So an ultra-flexible piece of wire about 19 inches long. I've made them out of pest lead wire and just a little ring to fit under the SMA connector on my radios. Depending on circumstances, they help a little to a whole lot. Maybe you're lighting back to that.
Thanks, Eric. Did that help you out?
Yes, I appreciate everybody's comments. It may be just a transmission problem, I don't know, but it seems like I can hit that repeater for normal communications anytime from my house, which is about 20 miles away, but I'm line of sight. So I'm not sure if the digipeaters have less sensitivity than the regular usage of the WOUPS repeater. I mean, I connected earlier to this net to that repeater above Horsetooth. I've since switched to the Boulder one just because it's a little bit clearer signal for me. But I don't usually have a problem hitting that repeater, so I'm not sure if the digipeater is just not as sensitive as the regular part of the repeater. So I guess that's about all we can talk about, so I appreciate it very much. This is Whiskey Zero, Delta, Papa, Charlie, back to net.
And 0 EMP.
EMP, I heard him in there has got a comment about that. Go ahead.
Yeah, the APRS system at Horsetooth is a separate antenna, separate feed line, separate duplexer cam that we're using as a filter to try to keep wind link out of it, and a separate transceiver. So it's all separate from the voice repeater.
DDZ.
Go ahead, Dave.
Another function that you should look at is your path. So if your path is set to wide 3, that means that it'll make 3 hops before it stops digipeating. And if it doesn't hit an eye gate before that, then it may potentially not even make it into the system. So that first number is the maximum number of hops that it'll make. The second number is how many hops it has left.
Any other comments or questions for this? Well, it's all magic, I guess you could say. But anyway, I hope we helped you out a little bit, and if not, come back next week and let us know how you came off. Anybody else have any comments or questions for the net, please call. I don't have a comment, but I do have a proposal, I guess you could say, if you will. I sent out a note, if you're not part of NCART, you might not have got this note, but you can actually send me a note at president@ncar.net if you're interested in this. We're very lucky to get Bob Schmidt. If you're not familiar with who he is, he's one of our ex-presidents from NCART, but he's also the owner and operator of SCOM, which is a repeater company. I'll let this drop. And sometime this fall, early fall, September, October, we're thinking about doing a Saturday seminar, 2 to 3 hours, whatever it end up being. It depends on how many people we get. On advanced radio and electronics. And this will be a more or less if you're interested in wanting to learn about something, you send a note and we will put it into the program. And Bob has promised he's going to go through all the things that we've done and anything that you are interested in. In fact, today I got 5 people that actually submitted ideas for it. So if you're interested, please send me a note at president@ncar.net and interested in showing up. It's a free seminar. I'll let this drop again. This is going to be a free seminar to anyone who wants to come, and we're actually going to try to do this about every other month. I'm looking at possibly doing it in Loveland because we have an obligation in Fort Collins that we're going to use the library up there for. So it may be either or whatever. So if you're interested, please send me a note. And don't think that this is an advanced course. It can be, but it will be drilling down to this is a resistor and this is what it does and this is how it works. And he'll even take one apart and do all kinds of stuff for it. So, it's more of a detailed thing than it is a highly advanced type course. So anything you want. Any other questions, comments for the net? Please call. Well, I guess I got another announcement. The Aries group is going to have a mini set this weekend, and it's strictly DMR, and we will have all of the frequencies that Rocky Mountain Ham has it, all, but I think we won't have Central West. We'll have Central East, North, South, and wide. We're going to take them and see if we can receive and all over the state. We're kind of tracking to see what we can do. So if you care to listen, we just tune on in. Any other questions, comments, or anything for the net, please call.
Late check-in, Kilo Golf 6, Oscar, Bravo, Charlie, Justin, mobile.
Justin, have you got anything for the net?
No, not this time. Just tuning in, just now getting off work, tuning in, listening to what's going on. Back to net.
Thanks. I guess I've got a question about my fake dipole ham stick thing for Greg. You said we should put them up 15 feet for NVIS, or is that like 10 to 15, or is it dead on at 15?
You can put them up to a quarter wave. Quarter wave? Up to a half wave above ground, but 15 feet or more is better. I've done it at 2 feet just to see if it worked, and it did. Not well, but it did. So 10 to 15 feet, 20 feet would be a little better. Anywhere in there, it's not critical.
Well, this dipole is directional, isn't it?
Well, you're going up. The signal you care about is a signal that's going pretty well straight up. And when a dipole is less than half wavelength, especially less than a quarter wavelength above ground, it's really not directional off to the sides.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that, because I do know that those things are directional when you use them as I want to say HF, but that's not correct, or DX antenna, something like that. So, okay, that's good to know.
Yeah, they're going to be more than a half wavelength up to really get the side directionality. And what you're looking at here is trying to get most of your RF to go up. That's why you have it down low.
Any other words of wisdom on how to make this thing work?
No, I think Bart reminded us of a good point on those particular antennas, that the part going inside, you don't want that long enough to get down into the coil, so you have to start cutting it short if you get to that point.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of that till he mentioned that. Huh, interesting. Does anybody else have any questions or comments for the net, or just got something they'd like to talk about?
Another thing on those ham sticks, Joe.
Go ahead.
Don't expect the performance that you'd probably get from a full-size dipole at the same height.
Is that right? Why?
They're just not nearly as efficient. Otherwise, people wouldn't have 80-meter antennas. They just have a ham stick. So they're not as efficient as a full-size dipole.
Now, would that be the same as these Wolf you know what I'm talking about? This is a Wolf River coils, because they're kind of in the same bracket. You're basically using a coil to extend it.
So typically with a Wolf River coil, you're using at least an 8-foot whip, if not a 17-foot whip, and the coil itself is bigger physically. The turns are spaced out on a larger diameter core than you have on the ham stick. So the Wolf River coil is going to work better than the ham stick.
And why?
Go ahead, Bart.
Back in the olden days, they thought it was preferable to have at least a quarter wave of radiator. When you get below a quarter wave of radiator, your radiation efficiency starts dropping dramatically. Sure, you can make it a 50 ohm impedance, but the amount of actual radiating element as it gets shorter gets less efficient. So a quarter wave ground plane will work. The dipole will work a whole lot better. It has pretty good radiation efficiency. But if you make a dipole, wires get shorter and shorter and shorter, your radiation efficiency goes down and down and down. It gets easier to handle, but the radiation drops. But as I commonly say at the end of every comment like this, you're still infinitely better than zero in my mind.
Do you recommend a Balun for this thing, or and if so, how big?
On dipoles and ham stick dipoles and ground planes, I have never used a Balun. That doesn't mean it's not a good idea. I have zero experience with Baluns. I have never used one. Zero in my life.
I can comment, LEI.
Answer it.
Yeah, LEI here. On the Balun issue, if you got RF, if you get stray RF in the shack, or you notice it touching a dial or something, then you need to get a Balun on it.
Yeah, I don't, so maybe I don't need to. And besides that, what I'm thinking about using this is portable, so I don't have anything out in the field, just a radio, a battery, and I don't even have, the radio I'm using, because I'm trying to tune it as well as I can, I'm just going to use the internal tuners on it, so I shouldn't have a whole lot of problems.
Yeah, that Balun just keeps RF feedback off of the transmission line.
Good, thank you so much. Any other comments or questions?
Yes, yeah.
I'm going to make a suggestion, if you will. Anybody that's using an amplifier, go out and talk to Dan about his little backfeed thing that he builds. You can buy one from, I think Yaesu makes one, but they're like $130, and he's nowhere near that. I thought we had a backfeed problem with this amp, and we found out it was just the amp. But I tell you, it's a good way to save the radio, because if the amp decides through the relay or even through the ACL module to come back at, you can waste a radio really quickly with the thing. And this module will stop it. It's a little bitty thing. It's about half the size of a cigarette pack, and it works great. So talk to Dan if you're using an amplifier. I don't care if it's solid state or tube. It's a great thing to have. Any other comments or questions for that? Please call.
Easier CF, got a question?
Right ahead, Ben.
I was wondering about, I have I think it's a CB fiberglass whip, and just wondering, using this as a radiator with some kind of matching network. Comparing this with a stainless steel one, anyone end up finding any difference between performance? Is it easier CF?
NYY.
Go ahead, Bart.
So I had two of the fiberglass CB whips at one time, and they had a stranded piece of probably 14 gauge up the middle. They don't tolerate trees as well as the steel whips do, but they're lighter and more flexible. But if you crack a tree with it, the stainless steel whip will kind of bend, and you can straighten it. The fiberglass will snap, and then you've got kind of a mess on the end. Other than that, it's a straight piece of wire. It seems to act the same, I suppose, because it's trivially thinner. It may have slightly less bandwidth, but everyone that I've used has had pretty much, covered the entire 10-meter band without a problem. N0 NYY.
Thank you. I was figuring that most part, if you keep power down low, probably not a big issue between this and a stainless steel one. But anyway, this fiberglass whip actually is already broken, so I'm starting with a broken piece anyway. But anyway, thank you. Back to that AE0CF.
Good, Ben. That's an excellent question. Any other comments or questions for the net? Please call.
Yeah, 0 EMP.
Go ahead, Greg.
Yeah, I got lightning moving in close. I'm shutting down and 0 EMP out.
Well, maybe we ought to shut down anyway. If no one, does anybody else have any traffic for the net? Okay, well, as you notice, I'm only on the 5th week, unless I'm asked to do it, and I really have enjoyed this net. It's really a lot of fun to do it. But we'll be back next Monday night. I'm not used to doing this net, so I can't remember what night it is. At 6 o'clock, they'll start. And tonight we had 32 check-ins. Thank you very much. And the net again will be at 6 o'clock next week. Don't forget we have our Wednesday night net, and I think I better shut down too because I just saw some lightning too. So it's KD0TYU clear, and I hope everybody has a great week, and the repeater is open for general use.
Before you go, Joe, NYY.
Yes, sir.
You get the biggest check-in numbers on the nets that you run, sometimes by a substantial margin, at least according to my feeble memory. So I'm calling you the A team, not the B team. You need to upgrade. N0 NYY. Thanks, Joe.
I thought it was more like the C team. I got to tell you the story about my amplifier sometime. What a mess this has been. I've got a brand new 811 HD sitting here that James and I kind of negotiated from the manufacturer, so I'll tell you about this sometime.
Roger, roger. Well, if you want another one, you can hook this one up. No, it's not the same model, and run it in push-pull. Never mind. Anyway, all right. Good job on the Net73, N0 NYY. Mobile, watching radar.
Thanks so much. KD0TYU clear.
This presentation was brought to you by the Northern Colorado Amateur Radio Club. For more information, visit our website, ncarc.net. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe.